If you've ever experienced anxiety or burnout, maybe you're experiencing it right now, for heaven's sakes, whether it be in leadership, in your health, in your sales career, it really doesn't matter because we've got Kelly Jo Price here with us today. You're going to want to listen to this podcast on how you too can become more through leadership. And she teaches us how to balance our visionary thinking as well as how we can ground ourselves in execution. So, Kelly, you've had 35 years of experience in so many areas. I've got to tell you, whether it be automotive industry, retail, claims administration, business development, insurance, and then you retired and you came out of retirement
Yes,
back to when you first started. What was it? I want you to take us back to that beginning. What sparked you? Your drive to lead and to build all of these various things
well, it's interesting you say that. So you're talking about the beginning, like yeah.
in the beginning, right?
So I think like a lot of us, maybe we didn't grow up in homes that were overly stable. I went through a lot. I had, my dad was married a couple of different times, which today I'm very grateful for because I have so many wonderful people in my life and I've had the opportunity to get to know and have um I would say numerous moms that play different roles in my life, but I think it also kind of brought out a survival instinct in me. And even as a little child, I was just talking with my friend that's a trauma therapist, and she said, you really have been a rescuer your whole life. And even from a little girl, I remember doing a carnival in my front yard for the Jerry Lewis. I don't know. Not everybody knows Jerry Lewis song, but I do. And I just always wanted to help people and to do things the right way. And so every single one of my businesses has been and either not even business, it's just even entrepreneur type endeavors, whether it's our foundation or something else, has always been around helping people doing things the right way. And in starting my business back in 1990 in the automotive industry, the one thing that I saw was that there were some things that weren't being done right. And I said, "You know what? We've gotta do this the right way." And that really changed our business, but also our and it made people really, like, recognize when I started exposing some of the things that were being done and said to the dealers, "This is not the way it should be." The way it should be this way, and our tagline ended up being "the way it should be." Ironically, it's just doing things the right way and working with honor and grace and honesty really proved to be the thing that got me through being successful in my business.
Yeah, and I'm just curious though, because you were a rescuer, because of the way you were brought up, did you have to fight some perfectionism at all?
Don't we all? I am on the Colby a quick start 10. So from a Colby perspective, like I'm a really, really quick start. So I don't have probably a lot of the perfectionism because I'm like, go, throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. And if it doesn't, what did we do wrong? How are we going to fail forward? What are we going to do the next time? And even this business that I recently opened, the medical center, I had never been in the medical field. I knew nothing about it. And I sat the team down on day one and we worked on our mission statement and we worked on our core values and how we were going to believe. And I said, the one thing is stick to our values and we do things the right way. Things will turn out okay. We need to do things wrong and we're gonna fail. We need to fail forward. And you and I's friend John Maxwell, I said, my favorite quote is fail forward. And I don't care if you don't make it again, permit, debrief it, learn what you want to do, but just do something rather than nothing because you're so worried about of failing or not doing it perfectly.
Well, I love what you say. Just do something for heaven's sakes, and failing forward. And you allowed everybody to do that you've ever led. As they
Right.
failed forward, you just helped them figure out how to do it better. And I know in the automotive industry, after you decided to retire, you people have been after you. I've traveled with you. I mean, we've been to Greece, we've been everywhere.
Papua New Guinea in the middle
Yeah,
of
Papua
nowhere.
New Guinea, that was an experience, right? And Guatemala, Brazil, uh, gosh, so Paraguay, so many places, helping to bring value-based education into the schools,
Mhm.
and it's so much fun to get to know you and hearing. I mean, both of us had stepped down as CEOs, and here we are traveling the world, meeting with prime ministers and presidents of countries with John Maxwell and his team, and people were calling you saying, "Hey, come back, we want you." Yet you decided to step out and do something totally different. And here you are right now coming out of retirement because you still want to help people. So tell us about that. First of all, how'd you turn them down and say, I don't want to come back? And then what led you to do what you're doing now?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think a lot of times when you think you wanna leave something and then you do it, and then you're like, "What should I be doing?" And that's kind of what happened to me is I traveled a lot the year 2023 after I completely stepped out of the business and was just on the board, and at the end of 2023, I was like, "I need to do something more with my brain." So initially, I was like, "Oh, I'll just text the people in my industry and see what I can do." But in my heart, I was like, "I really wanna do something different and bigger," and I prayed about it. What am I gonna do? I just started looking into different things. I became involved in documentaries, a couple of different documentaries. I got involved in Sound of Freedom, and in the one of the producers I got to know, and he was telling me about a doctor he was that helped with PTSD and depression. And immediately I thought of my son, and he's a fireman and struggles as most first responders do with enumerating thoughts of things that happen, anxiety of what happen next every time that buzzer goes off and you have to run and get another. And so immediately I'm like, hey, does this actually help firemen? And he's like, let me get you on the phone with the doctor. And as soon as I found out about what it did, I was like, everybody needs to know about this. Literally everybody. And so I scheduled myself right away. We went out there in December of 2023 to get treatment. And I walked into the doctor's office and I said, I want to live in a center like this at Cleveland. Not enough people know about this. I know so many people that struggle with PTSD and anxiety and depression and menopause, all of it, and the different things the sympathetic reset treats. And I had no one doing Diana. First of all, I didn't know you had to be a doctor to open a medical center, so I had to find a doctor that wanted to be my partner. But within 90 days, I wrote the business plan, found a doctor, bought all the equipment, and opened the door. And
Wait, just a minute. In how many days you did this?
90.
You know what? I love the way that you do things. You know, I find myself saying so many times, this is taking too doggone long, for heaven's sakes. What are you doing out there? And here in 90 days, you came up with an idea, you executed on that idea, you found, and we all know who is more important than what, right? You found the right people, and now this Reset Medical and Wellness Clinic, it's open, and you're already helping so many people.
Yep. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Seeing the difference in the lives that have changed has been unbelievable. I wish I was a doctor because I could do the work myself, but seeing everybody and the healing that it provides and the new chance at life, it really is. an absolute miracle, and it's a treatment that's been done for 100 years for pain, just that nobody knew it would work for mental health like it does, and so I just became very motivated to get that out there, and the cool thing is it all started with a documentary, and the documentary that was being produced on it, we just finished. So, we literally stopped and stalled, and the funding kinda lost its ground, and I said, to the woman that started it, her name's Shaw Thomas, and she's just a patient. She's like, "But everybody needs to know about this." And when I said to her, "How can we bring this together? Like, let's finish this. Let's get this documentary out there." We took some footage, I found some footage, we put the stories together, and it created a documentary, and it released, I think, maybe 4 weeks ago. So, finally got the documentary out there, which really kind of like all the people that originally started working on it kind of just disappeared over time, and we just pushed it back together and made it happen.
You know, can you just share a story with us? Because I know you've shared stories with me and they touch my heart as to how much you're helping people. Because quite frankly, they say that 78% of the world right now, they're lonely or they're suffering from anxiety or stress. Burnout is up to 96% in many cases, especially in upper leadership. So, can you give us just a story of somebody that was maybe struggling, that wasn't in your family, that came to this center and said, "Help me"?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many of them. I will say, and it wasn't my family, but it was a dear friend of mine, had been in and out of multiple suicide attempts, had been in and out of a lot of treatment centers for anxiety and depression, had been on so much medication that she just shook constantly. And when I heard about this treatment, I said, "You've gotta try it." Like, I mean, she had tried everything, 20 years of in and out, and literally couldn't leave the house, couldn't function on her own. Her anxiety was so high, she couldn't go to any events, couldn't do anything, and today she leads a fairly normal life. I mean, she's got some, you know, trailing things from so much medication for over the years, but she can get out of the house, she's leading a normal life, and it was literally right on the table. She had been in what is called a frozen state, where you can't cry and you can't laugh for many, many years. She couldn't feel love. She was just sympathetic nervous system was stuck. And once that reset was done, right on the table, she like started crying and said, "I can feel love." And it was unbelievable, and that, really became a driving factor for what I wanted to be able to so many more people. And my son and his husband are like different people, to be honest, like completely different people since the treatment. My son has had another one only because he's a fireman, and when you're woken up 3 times a night with an alarm going off, to go out, you know what you're gonna do, you're re-injuring your sympathetic nervous system. But knowing that that can help that, and you don't have to live with, lack of sleep and anxious thoughts all the time, it just makes all the difference in the world.
So it can happen that fast. I mean, she's on the table, and here she is, all of a sudden being able to feel love, something that she hasn't felt for years.
Correct, yeah. Everybody's a little different. Some people right on the table, I almost feel like the worse you are, the better you do right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. I mean, it isn't going to work for every single person, but it works for about 80% of the people. And if you think about talk therapy works for about 20 to 25% of the people, EMDR works for about 30, 31% of the people. When you think of it, and this helps 80% of the people, I mean, it's unbelievable, but the therapists that we work with that refer quite a few people into us, they are like, when these people come back, our sessions are so much better. One of the therapists said to me, and I love this, she said, "When a patient prior to the treatment comes in my office, we can sit here for 10 years and talk in the review mirror over and over and over again, the same thing over and over and over again. As soon as they get the treatment, all of a sudden, we're talking out of the front windshield, and we're no longer
Okay,
in the review."
that's huge. I
Huge.
mean, right there, we all know people that just keep living in the past. And every morning they wake up to repeat the same thing and they wonder why their life never changes.
Mhm.
And here you're taking someone, and very quickly, how many treatments does that take? One?
Well, it's only one. You do it 2 separate days, one side one day, one the next, but you can I mean, a lot of people over 50% of the patients fly in to get treated from around the country, and then, obviously the rest live locally, but you can come in, like, fly in on the morning, get treated in the afternoon, get treated the next morning, and then either fly home that night or the next morning, and as long as you have somebody with you, but it's very, very simple. It's 15-minute procedure total, maybe 20 minutes, but about 2 minutes is the actual procedure on each side. It's done under ultrasound guidance, very safe. And like I said, it's been 100 years for pain. It just has been effective for, um
When you say one side and then the other, obviously left brain, right brain. And so they're going to be wondering if I'm listening to this. I know where you're located at, yet let's tell our listeners, where are you located? Where do they fly into?
Strongsville, Cleveland, Ohio. Strongsville, Ohio, we're right by the airport. So,
The cost of a treatment.
yeah, so, it's 2350, $2,350 plus a 150 intake fee. And, if you're military or first responder, a teacher, a nurse, or a mental health professional, you get 20% off. We do that just because we know that they're faced with ongoing trauma over and over again. Like their job basically puts them back in the traumatic state. And so you can re injure your sympathetic nervous system. But I guess I want you to understand like basically what happens when you have these issues is that it's an injury to your sympathetic nervous system. So everybody thinks like PTSD is a disorder when really we're trying to get the name changed to PTSI as an injury because it's an injury to your sympathetic nervous system. So what happens is when your sympathetic nervous system gets turned on and it stays on, you don't process properly. You're not processing emotion properly. You're not processing thoughts properly. You have brain fog. And I always think, like, if I have a thought today, I bring it up to my frontal cortex, I process it, and I put it in the bucket that it needs to go in. And then if I know I need to go to the store, I'm like, okay, I gotta go to the store later. People that are in trauma or their sympathetic nervous system on, they keep thinking about it over and over again and they can't let it go. So they build this anxiety up, right? So they think about this event or this possibility of something happening because they no longer compartmentalize it properly. When you reset the sympathetic nervous system, it allows your sympathetic nervous system to process properly, put it in buckets it needs to go. And when you're ready, pull it back out and actually work on it. But you don't have to think about it all the time until you're ready. And that causes insomnia, it causes depression, it causes, basically vigilance, all of the things that happen when your nervous system hasn't been reset properly. And it's nothing you did wrong. That's what long COVID is it damages your sympathetic nervous system. So when you can't smell or taste anymore, it's damage. Literally, people right on the table get the treatment and smell and taste on the table because it's reset their sympathetic nervous system again.
How did you stumble on this? Because I know you've always cared about people. You even stated and started out, I'm a rescuer. And now you're back to rescuing people out of this deep, dark depression, out of anxiety and stress and PTSD, all these things that the world has. And just the suicide rate, hearing that you can help with potential people that are even thinking about committing suicide. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't, I bet your doors, people are lining up for this, and
I
such a great price.
Yeah, it really is. If you think about what you pay to go to a therapist for once a week for 8 weeks or 10 weeks, paid for it. It really makes a huge difference. And then your therapy sessions, I will say, if you continue to go, which we do recommend, working through those things, but you're gonna have a much better session. But what got me started was really that documentary and being involved with Sound of Freedom, and then seeing then the producer and I talking and him telling me about this doctor he's following, and as soon as I heard it, I was like, "How does everybody know this?" And, you would think that everybody'd be running through the doors, but people, are figuring out how to pay for it, they don't understand it, they think it's a vaccine, it is not a vaccine. All it is standard pain block that you'd get if you went and got an epidural or something else done to you. I mean, it's a short-term anesthetic. It is very, very safe, but, ropivacaine is the medicine. It's been used for 100 years for pain. I mean, it's extremely safe, and so I think just building awareness, Diana, is really the key, to getting people to understand it.
I love what you're doing, and it all comes from your leadership about lifting other people up and creating something that lasts. So let's flip and kind of go to your leadership. What are some of the great lessons that you would get to somebody right now? They've just got a leadership position, or maybe they're even leading themselves. You don't need a title to be a leader. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I love that you said you don't have to have a title to be a leader, and that's one thing that in my previous company, I had, close to 200 employees, and one of the things that I always said to them is everybody is a leader, and even if you don't have that title, you have that responsibility, and I would always and this is my analogy, is do it as if your boss was sitting next to you. Work 100% of the day, treat people as if your boss is sitting next to you. Now, I look at it and I say, I do it if Jesus is standing next to me. So I want to treat people the way that Jesus would treat them. I would want to act the way that Jesus would act. And my employees all knew there was nothing that I was going to have to do that I wouldn't do myself. And if it came down to it, and we were getting ready for a big launch or we were doing something and booklets needed to be printed, I was in the back with them printing booklets if that's what needed to be done. There was nothing that I wasn't willing to do myself that I would ask them to do. And we all have play, and obviously I can't do everything, so I'm not back there printing booklets all the time. But when we're all in it together and we need to get something done, we're in it together and we'll do whatever you need to do. Most importantly, don't ever act above somebody else, and if you're willing to do whatever you're asking to do, they have a lot more trust and confidence in you, and then you do what you say, then people will follow you, and if you ask them to do something that you're not willing to do, then it's kind of like telling a kid not to cuss, but you cuss all day, you know?
The fact of it is, you and I are a lot alike, and what happened when we were traveling together and we just like bonded, sitting next to each other at dinners and asking questions of each other. And the one thing that I think you and I have in common is we take a stand for people's greatness. We want to see them accomplish what their dreams are. And sometimes that means your standards are high. And sometimes it means you give them a good swift kick, right, to get them going. And sometimes you got to say some things that may edge them a little bit, get them a little upset, riled up, so they show you and let that potential come out. So let's talk about that. How do you help others unlock the potential in themselves?
Well, I really quick, I wanna go back to a comment that you made about, sometimes it's a lot to ask. I can't remember how you phrased it, but I would have people complain about our company on Glassdoor or, different things, and they'd say, "Listen, if you don't drink the Kool-Aid, you're not gonna fit in." And I would say, "You're absolutely right. If you not live to our culture, our team made other people live the culture because they believed in it, and if you didn't live the culture, you're right, not drinking the Kool-Aid, you're probably not gonna last long." And I was not afraid of that. I was not afraid to say, "Listen, I get it, but I didn't have to monitor it. I let it, and everybody else on it, and so they still monitored each other. Like, I didn't need to monitor at all because they all wanted it, because they believed in it, and they trusted it grew with us. And so I would say that having people be like, "Listen, you're too hard, your expectations are too high," that's okay. You're allowed to have those opinions. You just don't have to work with me, or you don't have to work at this company, or you don't have to be my friend, or you don't you know what I mean? Like, we can be acquaintances and I'll respect you. Kinda like John said, "Everybody is my friend. You're all my friends." It doesn't mean we believe the same, and we don't have to work together, but you're still my friend, right?
You're still my friend. That's exactly right. So I know that you're very humble. Give God credit for everything that happens in your life, and I love that about you. Yet I want you to put your humility in your pocket for just a moment and give us a success story that literally catapulted you up to be known for a great leader, especially in the automobile industry.
Yeah, so in the automobile industry, I would say that what made me who I was is that I wanted to do things the right way. And so I also made myself one of the biggest enemies because I exposed a lot of things that were happening related to fees and different charges that were being charged to dealers. And so it was a very, very tough road because I was a woman in a man's industry. And early on, it was who is she sleeping with? What is she doing? You know, there was no, I mean, it was, and I just, like, I kept, everybody would say, "Do you know what this person's saying about you?" And I said, "Listen, I know who I am and I know who I belong to. And if I keep doing the right things each and every day, they'll figure it out too." And I can't tell you the number of people that would come back to me years later and say, "I really didn't understand what you were doing, and I'm sorry that I said this or I did this." But I think if we don't worry about what people think, if we know we're doing it the right way and leading with integrity, passion, empathy, and doing it the way that it should be done, and you have nothing to hide and you're not tracking your lies, then eventually you'll succeed, or you weren't meant to be in that role. One of the 2.
I think that's so important to truly understand that. And what I keep hearing through what you're saying is let's just let people be who they are. Come from curiosity, not judgment, looking for everything that's wrong with somebody and pointing the finger, going, ooh, look at what they just did. You gave your people feedback. And you gave great feedback all the time. You didn't just say, oh, I like that, you're gone, right? I don't like what you just did, you're out of here. You were constantly giving feedback. Tell me about some of the feedback
Yeah.
that maybe is a little bit uncomfortable, and how do
Well,
we handle that with our people, that because we love them all.
yeah. And I think it's easy when you come from a stance of starting with open door policies and honesty. And so we did a lot of book studies. Like, before I ever knew John had a coaching company, I mean, we had done the 15, everybody in the company had done 15 laws of growth. We had done ideal team player. We had done 5 dysfunctions of a team. When my management team was having a really tough time, we grew really rapidly and we added managers to a team. And then it was like the founding manager versus the new manager. Everybody's like, kind of battling. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And we took 5 dysfunctions of the team and studied it 5 meetings straight and went through all the exercises and did everything, because I said, "Guys, it can't be the first team. Nobody's gonna follow us." And that team stayed together until I sold the company. And I mean, we were so tight because we knew how to trust each other. And I think when you build that trust, you don't have to worry. I mean, I could look at him and go, "Come on, you're being stupid." Nobody'd run away crying, nobody would do anything because they knew I love him. I'd just be like, "Come on, you're over the top," you know? And when you have that level of trust between each other, you don't have to worry about one word upsetting somebody or them taking it the wrong way, or, they're not being nice, or "Why would she talk to me that way?" when they know where my heart is. But that all comes from building that foundation. And I always said, if our foundation is sitting on a bunch of, toothpicks, we're in trouble. We're going to crumble. And so our foundation was our core management team, and we needed to be as solid as we could possibly be together. And I would say there's nothing that your person would come to me and talk to me about if you're managing them that I wouldn't say. Just so you know, if you're telling me, you're telling them, because whatever you tell me, you're telling them. There's no secret between, your boss, and when they knew that, they could learn to trust.
Well, and Patrick Lencioni says, in that triangle of the five dysfunctions of a team, that trust is what everything has to be built
Mhm.
on. And that you've got to allow conflict, and conflict means that everybody gets to voice their opinion. And you don't put somebody down just because they have a difference of opinion. You actually bring them in and you talk to them about it, right? And then you can build on commitment. Because you can't have commitment without trust and conflict. And
Right.
once you have commitment, then you can hold people accountable. Otherwise, they're not going to allow you to hold them accountable. And without all of those things, you're not going to have any results. And you got a lot of results. And I want to just ask you, how did you find balancing your visionary thinking with grounded execution, especially when you were working in all these innovative spaces that you've been in?
Yeah, I think that the right team behind you. So they all knew, you know what I mean? They'd all be like, "Uh-oh." I mean, I'd call them and I'd be like, "Everybody get together. I have another idea." Or I'd come up with something. And the nice thing is they could tell me how crazy I was. And sometimes I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm crazy, but we're still doing it." Or I'd be like, "Oh, you're probably right." Or sometimes it would be just like, "Hey, we're losing focus here. We need to stay true to who we are." And so I think by having, again, that really solid team behind me, and, we trained this every single person that came into our company got trained on this, and I had my S's and my C's around me because I'm like an ID off the like, dead center, high as you can be, crazy lady, you know what I mean? But I had those people to balance me. I mean, our team was there were 10 of us, 10 core leaders, and we were extremely balanced, the IDC and S's. And the nice thing is I would have the detail people that would take an idea and say, "Okay, all the detail that has to go behind this," and I would have the execution people and the sales people, and I'd have, so it just was. But I think building a really good team around you allows you to execute faster, and you don't have to do it all yourself.
Yeah, I really like that because I know you're not just doing the clinic right now, you're doing a lot of different things, and you bring that same leadership style into everything that you do. Let's just talk about their set dot movie. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so that's the documentary that we, just came out with. It talks about the treatment, and it shares a lot of the impact of the people that have been treated, and really what the mission is to help get people treatment and to build awareness of the treatment itself.
Is it on YouTube or where would they find
It's on
that?
YouTube. You can just go to the reset.movie, so TAG reset.movie, and it'll take you
Oh,
to
I said their set, not the reset. So
the
there you go. See, I just saw there and set. So now that sometimes when it's all put together, here's a great example of leadership in the way we see things differently.
Yep,
I separated it from there and set, and you separated it from the reset
right.
because your brain is thinking about resetting other people and I'm sitting there going they're set. I should have said, how do you say that? Because I struggled with that when I first read it. And then I do know though, because I've bought a lot of different things on your foundation and Changing Lives Foundation. I love what you're doing and how you've helped people. And whether it's a donation that we give or we buy some of your products that you sell, the money goes to help
Yeah,
other folks.
100% of the money helps people in catastrophic need, so, 100% of our expenses are paid for by our board, but Changing Lives Foundation actually started in 2018 because I had, as an employer, or a small employer, if an associate would have trouble or need something, they would naturally just come to me and say, "Hey, my tooth needs to be extracted. I don't have the $400, whatever." And so I'd write a check or I'd have the money. And it got to the point that as we got bigger and bigger, it was very challenging to know who to say yes to, who not to. Technically, if I was writing him a check, I was supposed to be taxing him, and you know what I mean, all these things. Um, and it was very challenging. We had an associate that came to one of our managers and was just completely distraught. She had come home to a foreclosure notice at her door, and she's like, "If my husband finds out, it's going to be a disaster." And so my manager called me and she's like, "What do I do?" And I said, "How much is the mortgage?" $1,200. I said, "Just come over. I'll write you a check." So I gave him the check, and the next month, instead of coming back to me and talking to me, she committed suicide. And so my team, we were actually in a big meeting at the time that we found out, and my team came back to me and said, "You can't do this. Like, you cannot be responsible." So she did come back to me, and I didn't say no, thank God. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what I would have done. Like, what, am I going to pay your mortgage the rest of my life? Am I going to do anything? And so one of our associates had worked for another company that had um, a had an employee assistance fund. And one of my goals was always to create a fund for people, like, you're a single mom with breast cancer and you need to get treatment, but you also need to pay your mortgage. Like, what's the way that you can get money to help you through that? And so I always wanted to create a foundation. And this was the emphasis of it, because with this, they said, "You can't take this on. Why don't we create an employee assistance fund, and you can donate X amount of dollars per year to it, and if they want, they need money, instead of coming to you, you can say apply for a grant. You don't get to say yes or no, the 5 people that are on the committee, and it comes through as an anonymous person, and basically they state what your need is, and the committee decides whether it's worthy of a grant or not." So we started doing that, and that's when the Change Lives Foundation came up, is, that we wanted to be able to change lives of people in catastrophic need and something going on. And the person that was behind their mortgage had a bunch of health issues from doctor visits. So it wasn't her fault that she was behind. She was a great worker. But she just had gotten behind because of some health issues. And so we created that, and then why do we just have to do it for our employees? Why not for anybody? And so that's where we started launching it out, and then we started selling merchandise to raise money for the foundation, and so it just kind of all became, so that's 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, I love everything that you're doing. And when we go out and ask your friends, who is Kelly Jo Price? They said generous, leader, inspiring, motivated, and a servant. And you do have a servant's heart. And that's one of the
You'll like
many
this.
things I
So
love about you.
this is one of the things that we make at the foundation, is we can customize this. But my girlfriends from a retreat, we wrote down 3 things, all of us, that we liked about each other, or that we thought described each other. And so this is literally a mug that I had made for each of them, that has all the words that everybody wrote about them. So just said some of them. So shepherd, selfish, big heart, life-saving, dedicated, spiritual servant. So I get reminded of it every day, all the words my friends wrote about me.
I love that. And you can actually you design that, or the person can design whatever they desire. What a great Christmas gift.
Yeah.
And 100% of the money goes to help other people. I mean, you have a win-win situation there
Yeah.
for certain. Kelly, I just thank you so much. Let's
Thank
tell them
you.
once again how they get in touch with you. In fact, why don't you share your YouTube, your LinkedIn, Facebook? We'll put them all on the screen if they're watching this. Yet if they're listening, let's tell them. What is
Yeah.
your Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube?
Yeah, well, usually Kelly Jo Price, but if you just go to kellyjoprice.com, it will take you to anything that you need to know about me.
Well, then your website has to be really big because you've done some very big things. So may God bless you to continue to go on and help so many others. And
Thank
if
you.
they once again want to know more about the clinic, they can go to.
Theresetcenter.com. So TheResetCenter.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in Atlanta.
Yep, I'll be there. Talk to you soon. Bye.